Come on in, come on in. Let's talk about the 2024 NBA season. Blessings, blessings, blessings. The NBA season is upon us now. Let's talk about the opening night games. Let's talk about the top 10 players in the league going into the season. What some of my predictions are about who is going to be standing when all the dust settles. So starting off with opening night, first we get the Lakers and the Nuggets. Then we're going to get the Suns and the Warriors. I think this is a preview of some playoff matchups that we could potentially see with other Western Conference teams that might be in the mix, like the Kings, maybe the Grizzlies, teams like that. Now, I don't want to disrespect too many teams because you still got teams like Dallas. If they could put it together, they might be, something to reckon with. But right now, I think that these are the top 4 teams in the Western Conference. So the Lakers and the Nuggets is obviously a rematch of the Western Conference Finals from this last year, and I think the Lakers might lose this game. There's a lot of hype over the offseason moves that they did. The Nuggets losing some key pieces in Bruce Brown and Jeff Green, 2 players that really helped them secure their championship last year. The team is going to look a little different, but I think they are still built to be a very successful regular season team. Now, when I'm saying regular season team, I'm not saying that they're not playoff caliber. What I'm saying is they have a team with enough depth to survive 82-game season. The Lakers, too, they secured their young players like Austin Reeves, Jared Vanderbilt. They got D'Angelo Russell back. They got AD on the extension. They was able to still Gabe Vincent from the Heat. So the Lakers roster is really looking really nice. They added Christian Wood towards the end of the free agency period. So that's another good piece for them. I think when it all boils down is that Jokic is going to be the best player in this game. It's still going to be early. The Nuggets are going to have more continuity than the Lakers will have. So I really see this game going more towards the Nuggets, but it should be a good game. Second game on the slate is going to be the Warriors and the Suns. I would pick the Suns, but I think with the Warriors being at home, I think that's what's going to help them win the game. It's going to be interesting to see, is Draymond going to be able to play? And if he doesn't, then how they going to defend KD, Booker, and Bradley Beal? Now, obviously, that's an explosive trio. Everybody's going to have to try to figure it out, but the Warriors have a lot of wing defenders, but Draymond is really the captain of their defense. When the Suns first made that trade to get Bradley Beal, their bench was looking real depleted, but now with them signing players like Bobo, you see now what the shaping of this team really can look like. I think it's going to be a real challenge for the Warriors to try to defend the Suns, but I think the Suns are going to be equally challenged trying to defend this Warriors team. The Warriors adding CP3, a lot of people say he old, he's not the same. He might not be the same, but he's far from washed up. And he's going to be playing with 2 of the best shooters of all time and the best 2 shooters he's ever played with. And for a floor general for the caliber of Chris Paul, it's going to be like a dream come true. The biggest question for the Warriors is going to be, how are they going to deal with the size of Nurkic? Because Nurkic is going to be a house down low that's really going to help that Suns team with him crashing the boards, him being tough on the inside. He gives them an element of toughness that they did not have prior to his trade. I see this being a good game. I can see the Suns pulling away towards in the middle of the game, and then probably the Warriors make a late rally and probably win riding away with their home crowd. But I would not be surprised if the Suns won this game because that trio is really, really crazy. So on opening night, we get 2 Western Conference matchups, and then on the following night, we finally get to get some Eastern Conference action. The NBA has to put the Knicks in prime time at every chance they get, so we at least get to see them face the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics was able to get Porzingis over the offseason, and then they was able to get Drew Holiday after the Damian Lillard trade went through. Also on the second night, we get to see Dallas face the Spurs because the NBA is obviously trying to push Wembanyama on us not to. To me, this is 2 lopsided matchups. I think, the teams are going to play hard because it's opening nights, they first games of the season. But I think it's a clear difference between Boston and the Knicks and the Dallas Mavericks and the Spurs. Now, the interesting thing about the Mavericks and the Spurs is the Mavericks are coming off a season where they're disappointed by not making the playoffs. And then you get Victor Wembanyama coming in there trying to make a name for himself in his first game. So I think the game will be interesting, but I think ultimately when Kyrie and Doncic start really getting into their bag, I think they're really gonna pull away from in this game easily. I think the Mavericks still trying to figure out how they're gonna build around those two, but I think eventually they're going to figure it out. Overall, I think it's some nice network television games to start the season. Obviously, it's going to be more teams playing on Wednesday, but you have to have League Pass to watch those games. But just the games that's going to be on network television, I think those are going to be some really good games. So moving on, ESPN recently released their top 10 players going into the season. We saw the list be headed up by Giannis, followed by Jokic. Then you had Embiid at 3, Luka at 4, Steph at 5. Then you had Tatum at 6, KD at 7, Shea of the OKC Thunder at 8. Then you had the Lakers tandem of LeBron and AD rounding out the group at 9 and 10. Now, I don't take much umbrage with the list like most did. A lot of people said Embiid should be number 1 automatically because he won MVP, but I don't agree with that. I would say that I think the top 3 is right. You can make an argument that Jokic is better than Giannis, but I think Giannis as a two-way player gives him the edge over Jokic to me. Now, once we get to 4 and 5, 6 and 7, that's where I kind of start to disagree because I don't think it's any way Luka should be above Steph at this point. I don't think Luka should be above KD because he hasn't won anything. Yeah, he puts up gaudy stat lines. He's really impactful to the game, but how much is he impactful to winning? Now, we saw the one year they made it to the Western Conference Finals because the Suns, I don't want to say because of, but a part of it was the Suns imploding in such a historical fashion that they made that run that they made. So I personally would have Steph at 4, then I would have KD at 5. So then that would make Luka and Tatum be my 6 and 7 respectfully. And I would keep 8, 9, and 10 the same with Shea, LeBron, and AD. I think this year with the Bucks getting Dame is going to really be able to unlock Giannis to be even more dominant because he's going to not have to shoulder so much of the offensive load with Middleton being kind of up and down. They kept so many of their good pieces offensively that it's really going to let Giannis focus more defensively, and I think that's going to really just separate him even more as being the best player in the league. So I think as the season progresses, I think my top 4 in the West probably is going to end up being the Suns, the Nuggets, the Warriors, and the Kings. Now, the Kings are still a relatively young team. I don't know how much of a run they're going to make, but I think that team being so young is still going to have a great regular season record because they're going to be able to run up and down their court, push the pace every night. And it's going to be hard for a lot of teams to deal with it. So I can see them enjoying some of that same regular season success that they had last year. Now, them having more experience in the postseason now will make them a more formidable postseason threat, but I still don't see them really making as much noise as they might hope. I'm really excited to see these Rockets and Thunder matchups. I think they are the two brightest young teams coming up in the West this year, with the Rockets getting Ime to be the coach of that team. I think that's going to really change the dynamic and the culture of that team, and we're going to see it on the basketball court. I think OKC getting Chet is really going to solidify that defense. They already had one of the best offenses in the league last year. They really just was missing that big man piece down low to really be that rim protector to get that defense to really be able to move on the string and be as efficient as the offense is. Don't be surprised if you see OKC battling for that 6th spot in the West. I think they have some experience under their belt. They have some continuity now with that core being together for so long. I think adding Chet, if he can stay healthy, gives them the dynamic that they need to really break through out of their play-in scenario. So I can see the Lakers and the Thunder really vying for those 5 and 6 spots, and then teams like Dallas and maybe the Rockets fighting really to secure them play-in spots. I think the Timberwolves and the Clippers might be around that 7 and 8, but I think 5 through 8 is really fluid. It could be any way. It just really depends on how healthy will the Clippers be. how will Cat and Rudy Gobert look together in their second season playing together, which really can shake up how that 5 through 8 gonna look. But I really think the 1 through 4 in the West is gonna be standing wise the Nuggets, the Suns, the Warriors, and the Kings. Now, when we get to the playoffs, I think it's gonna be a different story. But let's talk about the East for a minute. For the East, of course, I think Milwaukee is going to be the #1 seed again. I think them in Boston, they're going to fight for their #1 spot. But with the Bucks really being the #1 team by a landslide last year, and then them getting Dame, I think that's really going to just help them even solidify their #1 spot even more. Now, we saw when the playoffs came, that didn't matter. But I think as far as just regular season records go, I think it's going to be 1 and 2, the Bucks and the Celtics. Now, the way the team's presently constructed, I think you probably see Sixers and Cavs fighting in that 3 and 4 spot, but you never know what's going to happen with Harden. He's been adamant about getting out of Philly, so we're going to see, is his tune going to change if they never can trade him out of there? If he does end up going to the Clippers, how does that shake up the West? But right now, it just remains to be seen. So as the team is presently constructed, I can see Philly and the Cavs really fighting for their 3rd and 4th spot. Now, I know the Heat won the East last year and all that, but the Heat really are not a regular season team. Playoff Jimmy turns up, and I think with them losing Max Strus and losing Gabe Vincent, I think it's going to take a greater toll on them in the regular season. I wouldn't be surprised to see them back in the play-in scenario again, just like they was last year. I'm really excited to see how the Hornets look this year with now Brandon Miller being paired up with LaMelo Ball. I think that's a young team. I think they have potential to continue to grow, but I don't expect them to really do nothing this year. The Magic and the Pacers are my 2 Eastern Conference young team to watch this year. I think I can see both of them fighting for play-in spots, fighting for playoff spots this year. I think they have the requisite talent, them being in the East, which is more top heavy than the West. I think the West is more fluid. You can see strength more even down to the lower level of teams, but it's not really like that in the East. I think the East is just really top heavy. So I think they're probably 6 through 11 or 6 through 10, the play-in bubble teams. I think it's going to fluctuate a lot throughout the year because you still got Brooklyn that's going to try to be in the mix. I think they might have a chance. I like how that team is constructed. I think Cam Thomas is probably going to have a big season this year. And then with them still having Mikal Bridges, who is their best player, Spencer Dinwiddie, stuff like that, I think they probably be fighting for a playoff spot. Also, you cannot discount the Raptors. The Raptors still have a very well-constructed roster. They're going to be fighting and scrapping to be in the playoffs as well. But when the dust settles, I think the East top 4 is going to be Boston, Milwaukee, the Cavaliers, and Philly. So starting with the East, when we get to the playoffs, I think it's really going to hold true. The top 4 teams are going to be the second round teams. They're going to be the ones that push through regardless of how the first round matchups look. I think even with the Heat having the success that they did last year, I think they're not going to be able to repeat that this year because of all the pieces that they lost. So, of course, all of this is assuming good health for all the teams. All the predictions that we make is assuming the teams are relatively healthy because we know we get to that point in time, nobody's really 100%. But I'm saying I think all the players that are of any real consequence are going to be hooping. So I think in the East, we're going to see that same 4 teams be the 4 teams that make it to the second round. Milwaukee, Boston, the Cavs, and Philly. Now in the West, I think it's probably going to be a little shakeup. I still see the Kings losing in the first round. I think if they match up probably with like the Lakers or even with the Clippers, I can see them losing in the first round depending on how those teams have gelled throughout the season. Now the Lakers, I think, of course, when you have LeBron and AD, you always have a chance. So I think because of their size and their veteran experience, I think if they match up with the Kings, I think they will beat the Kings in the 7-game series. Outside of that, I really can't see the Warriors, the Suns, or the Nuggets losing in the first round. Now, maybe if the Warriors play the Lakers, maybe because obviously size is still an issue for them, But I still think this year with them having CP3, him being able to give the Lakers different looks, even if they do match up with them again, I think they'll have a different game plan. And with Jonathan Kuminga and guys like that stepping up, Moses Moody, I think you might see a different outcome this year, but it just all depends on the matchups, really. So my prediction is the opening night games is going to be the second round in the Western Conference. So that's going to be the Lakers, the Warriors, the Suns, and the Nuggets. To me, the best combination of those teams would be seeing the Lakers play the Suns and the Warriors play the Nuggets. In my scenario, I would have the Warriors and the Suns moving forward. I think the Lakers defense is going to be good again. I think they're going to still be able to get to the line consistently, but I think that Suns offense is just going to be too much. So then that sets up Warriors, Suns in the Western Conference Finals, which I see the Warriors going back to the finals again. So let's detour back to the East. So we had our top four, which was Boston, Milwaukee, Philly, and the Cavs. I think, to me, I'd rather see Boston and Philly, Milwaukee, Cavs because of the history of Boston and Philly. I think even with them playing this past season and Boston eliminating them and how that series went, I think that probably would be the best combination that we'll get out of the East. So it's no secret out of those four, I see Boston and Milwaukee advancing. Now, this is where it gets really, really, really tricky because out of Boston and Milwaukee, to me, that is really a push. It's a hard series to call. With Boston losing Marcus Smart, adding in Drew and adding in Porzingis, and then now with Milwaukee getting Dame, both teams have some continuity, but both teams have added very major pieces that changes how that team look. I want to say it would come down to coaching, but even with Adrian Griffin versus Joe Mazzulla, I really don't think Joe Mazzulla is a good coach, but maybe he learned from last playoffs. Maybe he now is better at making adjustments. If he can step up and really get that team in the right position to perform, I really think Boston can beat Milwaukee to go back to the finals. But with our last remaining four teams being the Warriors, the Suns, Boston, and Milwaukee, I think any combination that we get in the finals would be a great, great series. But according to my prediction, we're going to get the Warriors and Celtics rematch. CP3 going for his first ring. Obviously, the Celtics players going for their first ring. They've been here before. They tasted defeat. It seemed like they've been on the cusp so long. Now they're coming back without Marcus Smart. They're coming back with Drew Holiday. And without Robert Williams, they're coming back with Porzingis. The Warriors going to come back looking different too now with CP3. I know, remember we talked about this is all predicated on the teams being healthy, which a lot of Joe's going to come with CP3 and his health in the playoffs. But I think with him not having to shoulder so much of the load, we can still have a healthy CP3 going for his first ring here in these finals. Now, I'm pretty sure if you watch this channel, you already know who I'm picking to win it, but I'm still going to say it. I'm going to have the Warriors in 6, baby. Warriors in 6. I think that trio experience is still going to trump the experience that they got last time in the finals. Remember, I'm picking the Celtics even to make the finals based on Joe Mazzulla advancing in his coaching prowess, but I still think Kerr is a better coach than him, which ultimately is going to give them the edge in the series. So there y'all have it, man. You got the 2024 season by me. I would go through MVP and all that, but I think all that stuff is just popularity contests and storylines. We have to see how that stuff play out to see who will really end up winning. So right now, I think this is what's going to happen. I think you're going to see the Warriors win their 5th ring under Steve Kerr. It's going to be a successful season, man. The main thing I hope is that the team stay healthy, man. We can get some exciting games. I love when the Saturday games start to happen and all that. We're going to see this season should be very, very exciting with all the moves that have been made, all the new team construction and all that. I'm really excited to see how this year going to play out. It's crazy because I just realized talking about the West, I didn't even mention the Grizzlies, which is crazy because they probably be one of the best teams too. Yeah, man, it's going to be an exciting NBA season. I think the West is going to be a bloodbath, and then I think the East is going to be really top heavy. But when we get to the playoffs, I'm expecting some exciting series if everybody just remain healthy, it's going to be really, really, really a good season. With that being said, make sure you like and comment on the video, share it with a friend. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, leave a comment of who you think going to win this year. Put your prediction out there. So if you wrong, I can say you wrong too if I end up being wrong, because everybody like pointing out with somebody wrong in their predictions. With that being said, man, thank y'all for tuning in. Shalom.